Hey guys, welcome to a Fortnite creative tutorial on how to make a custom FFA map. This tutorial will include things like the item spawners that you need to spawn in all the guns, the player spawners, even the island start, and all those kind of useful things that you'd want in your own FFA map. So guys, the gameplay you're watching right now is actually from one of my most recent maps, the Wild West 2.0 map. And I'll be showing off a few of my FFA maps, you know, just to kind of show y'all what kind of stuff I did, because I made a few in the past, and I think at this point in time I've gotten a little skill of making FFA maps. So hopefully y'all could learn from that and stuff. If you want to skip this intro, you can go to this time right now and get straight to the tutorial. But for now, let's look at some of the other maps. Alright guys, so this is the first FFA map I'm gonna show y'all. Hopefully y'all could get some inspiration. This is a Sky Islands theme, you know. So obviously you have the floating islands, you have the rocks, you have the mini houses, and bridges connecting just about everything. Alright guys, this one is the space theme. So, you know, of course you have the flying cars, you have the space station itself, right? And also you have the floating gas station. All the stuff you want. Alright guys, here is the last map I'm going to be showing off before I get to the actual tutorial. This is a Wild West map that I made. You know, you have Wild West themed prefabs, and you got the wheat farm, you have hay bales everywhere, you have classic Wild West guns that you'll see here in a second in the gameplay. This is the first map I think I made. Right when creative came out, I just hopped on here and started throwing down prefabs, and to this day it's one of the best, kind of most fun maps to play on. Obviously I made Wild West 2 that I was talking about earlier, but this is kind of what started it all. This is where all the FFA stuff came from. So obviously I wouldn't, you know, make an extra Wild West if there wasn't something wrong with this one. Basically, sometimes the guns are, you know, they're not the best guns. Also, sometimes it could mess up. The player inventory is a big kind of bug where sometimes it doesn't even give you guns. That's just a main thing. Not to mention that the name tags randomly turn off. It's an okay map, but there's definitely a few problems with it. As you can see, there's some gameplay of Sapio acting like a noob, letting me get a bunch of kills on him. But you know, he could probably beat me in a 1v1. As you can see, there's easy to reach high points, you know, get on the roofs of buildings, all kinds of stuff. There's tires, and yeah, basically everything you want in an FFA. Alright guys, so in this clip I'm going to be going over some of the random cover that I have added. You know, there's these bushes all over the place, obviously there's fences all over the place, and it's actually a pretty good thing to have. You know, FFA maps, you know, you want to be able to hide around stuff, especially if you're not going to be able to build. You know, you need plenty of stuff to hide behind. As you can see, I used that bush to, you know, dodge a few shots and block a few shots till I was eventually peeking out. Alright guys, so that wraps up just about all the gameplay footage. Now we're going to move on to Wild West 2. Alright, so here we are. This is the spawning area. You know, welcome to Wild West 2. There's all the people that helped me and all the good stuff. Here's some footage of the spawn pads, you know, all the complicated mechanisms and stuff, which I'll be showing y'all how to use. You know, it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. And here is, you know, a little tour of the place. We have a little shack it just showed, right? There's a corn silo with a bunch of hay bales and such. Obviously there's a big, I don't know, crop farm, and a windmill with a little lumberjack hut right next to it. You know, just a bunch of nice buildings, a lot of open buildings. So if y'all are like, oh, I don't know what to build, take inspiration. You know, there's a lot of tall buildings, and there's short buildings, and there's open buildings, and there's closed buildings. Even the buildings that, you know, they're pretty closed off, they still have windows and stuff, so it leaves for a lot of fights, you know, that go on. once the game starts. So here's the sheriff's place, you know, have the jail cells. Here's the big barn. I actually used the barn prefab, but I took it apart a little bit and made this, you know, obviously smaller and more like a home and less like a barn, you know, as you can see with the bed up there. And this is actually the only prefab that I placed without really editing that much. I obviously edited like simple stuff, like got rid of some of the hay bales and added some hay bales, but pretty much everything else here is made 100% by hand, you know, kind of looking at a prefab, then changing it up a whole bunch to make it my own. Here's one of the house designs. We actually have two house designs in this map. Here's the second house design that we have. It's obviously a little bit bigger, you know, it has that overhang as well. So it's actually pretty crazy when people are fighting and jumping on the roof and stuff like that. Here's the kind of first house, you know, get y'all an idea of what it's like. Here's the second house. It, like I said, has a second story because it's bigger and, you know, can have a lot more playstyles and stuff. So that's pretty much, you know, all the map, kind of toured and gone through relatively quickly. Alright guys, now we're going to start showing off the more technical parts of this map, you know. The first thing we're going to look at here is the actually item spawners, you know, where you get your guns. So you spawn in a little room like this and you get your guns. It's actually a way better system than the player inventory because I figured out that it actually, you know, doesn't work all the time. Meanwhile, this is a flawless design. I did get some inspiration from Immature Gaming on that kind of pushing items design, you know. So once you spawn in the game, you know, here's some gameplay of, once again, Sapio acting like a noob so that I could get some gameplay out of it. You can see how he's using the random cover of that pole there. This map has tons of random cover, and as you're gonna see here in a second, it has a few hiding spots, you know. So if you hop on some hay bales, you might be able to get on the balcony of this thing. And it's pretty crazy when people start running in, you just start shotgunning them from above. And the good thing about this map, guys, is, you know, if you're ever in a sticky situation with really low health, you know, you could use your flintlock to get on top of places, use tires to get on top of places. And there's actually some parkour elements, you know, with the hay bales and stuff to get on top of the buildings. There's me fighting Sapio. As you can see there's also some parts, you know, like the corn silo, where you could easily access with the tires, as Sapio is showing off. This is another clip of me using the flintlock to get on top of a high building. This time, I'm on top of the sheriff's building. And, oh, nice headshot. Alright guys, so now it's time to show off the tutorial. So first you're going to want some kind of flat land. I couldn't find any islands that were cleared up, so I just kind of built my own flat land. You know, y'all probably shouldn't do this because it doesn't look as good, but for tutorial's sake, I think it'll be just fine. So for the first step, we're going to be making the island start, which is basically just the spawn pads. It's very simple. So all you're gonna need is a little room like this. Mine's is 5 by 5, I believe. Yeah. And basically, this is where you want to write the title, like, oh, who made it, who helped you make it, all that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna rename it to tutorial. Alright, now that we have our map name chosen out, we're gonna go ahead and rename who it was made by, which is obviously it's made by me, so I'm gonna put me. And we're gonna go change who helped me, so help from, and I'm just gonna write someone because no one really helped me on this tutorial. It was just kind of me, but yeah. So those are, you know, billboards, pretty easy to use, kind of the best thing that you could do. So now we're gonna go into devices, and you're gonna go somewhat towards the bottom, and you're gonna look for where it says player spawn. Now player spawns are basically spawn pads, so if I'm calling them spawn pads, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So we're just gonna place a bunch. I'm gonna place about 16, you know, because 16 is the maximum amount of players you can have per creative world. So, not that I always play with 16 people, but might as well be prepared. So now we're gonna, you know, hold customize on this, and we're gonna change some of the settings. So first, we're gonna change it from enabled to disabled. Don't worry about the team, don't worry about the priority, don't worry about the island start, just leave it on. Don't worry about the visibility in the game because, you know, they're disabled in the game is basically why it's called disabled. It's not because, it'll still work, but in the game it won't work, which is basically what we want, right? So, as long as they're lit up red like that, you know, that's how you know it's probably the right one, not blue, red. So, let's go change these real quick. Shouldn't take too long. Alright, we only have a few more left to go, guys, and, you know, basically once they're all lit up red, that's how you know it works. Now, in order to test this, we're going to want to hit the respawn button. So if you press options, go down to respawn. If you spawn on one of these 16 spawn pads, or however many you have, if you spawn on one of them, that means it works. And okay, it worked perfectly. Alright, guys. So that is, that's one of the things crossed off our list, you know, we spawned in here. Now we gotta go change that, you know, cross that off the list. I'm just gonna put a pyramid. You guys don't have to, like, you know, worry about this list kind of thing. It's just for me to, you know, look at. Alright guys, so now on to the second part of all 4 of these steps. We're gonna make the weapon giver machine thing, whatever you want to call it. So basically, I would say something like, let's just throw down a team inventory spawner and just call it a day, but these things aren't, they're not as reliable as you think. You're supposed to throw them down and just drop items into them, but they really don't work all the time, you know. That's the biggest flaw with my other maps is I've done, not necessarily scientific testing, but I've just done some testing, and I find if I try it 20 times, you know, I just play the game 20 times completely normally, about 7 or 8 of those times, it will just not work at all. It's kind of bad, so, you know, we want this 100% guarantee that it works. Here's a, you know, here's a clip of me spawning with no guns. Yeah. Also, sometimes it leaves out 1 or 2 guns at a time. Like in this clip, there's no hunting rifle. So it kind of sucks. So what we're going to do is build the item spawner that I, you know, kind of copied off of Immature Gaming. But I did kind of, you know, add a few things to make it look cooler, in my opinion. So we're going to, you know, start by placing a few ramps up. Doesn't have to be 3 ramps, you know, just like I just like putting up a few ramps just to get out the way, so y'all can follow if you want. And we're just gonna make a 16 block, you know, kind of line, and we're acting as if the ramp is kind of the middle, so we're just gonna go out a few blocks. It obviously 16, you know, it's not an odd number, so there won't be a perfect middle, but you know, as long as you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So once y'all have that done, you know, we're going to start working on where the players actually spawn. So we're just going to, basically we're going to double up this kind of area. Yeah. Alright, so now that we're about done of just adding another layer of 16, we're going to start putting up some walls, guys. So just kind of like this, 16 walls in a row, just lining the edge. Alright, because these are going to be where the players spawn to get their guns, if y'all remember that example I showed earlier. So, one way to actually do this is if you select, you know, you could actually place pretty much in 1 shot instead of 2 shots, right? Alright guys, now that we're pretty much done with that, only have 1 left, and I did make some mess ups, so don't worry guys. Now what we're gonna do is kind of open them up, you know, just to make it easier to work with. You don't have to do this, but it's a lot easier just walk in than, you know, have to fly over the top and stuff. Alright guys, now that we're done editing all those walls, it doesn't really matter how you edit them, you could just put a door or whatever, but I don't know. I think it's way easier if you just put an arch or something like that. The next thing is to actually get the spawn pad, so we'll go over to devices, And spawn pads, you know, they're where we looked last time, right? Towards the bottom. And we're gonna need 16 of them to fill in every single gap. Now, spawn pads, there's many ways to place them. You don't want to place them like this. That's just wrong. I'll show you how to place them. You also don't want to place them like this. That's facing the wrong way again. And you definitely don't want to place them like that, because that's facing backwards. If y'all aren't able to, you know, remember which way, the way I remember it is if you place it like this toward the numbers sideways, and the little back button piece right there is facing backwards. That's how you know where the back is. That's basically the tail of the spawner. That means you're gonna aim straight at that wall, which is just what we want. Now we're gonna change some of the settings on this, because obviously we don't want it to be used as the island start. We don't want it to be visible during games. You can go ahead and turn that off. Now we're just gonna go place in the rest of them. Now remember which way you have to place it. The tail facing backwards, and yeah. Alright, now that we're done placing all those, we're gonna go ahead and edit the rest of them. I only edited the first one so I could show it, you know, maybe if y'all didn't catch it in time. Basically, turn off use as island start, turn off visible during games. Alright, now that we're done changing all the settings on these guys, we're gonna go on to the next part. Alright guys, now we're gonna go towards the back of the player spawns, and we're gonna place some floors. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 floors there. Hopefully y'all can see that. And we're basically gonna fill in this whole entire area of floors. So 16 by 5 floors. Oh shoot, my bad guys. I was trying to select it, not delete it. Don't delete it. That was a complete accident. Didn't mean to do that. Alright, what you're gonna want to do is select it, not delete it. Now copy it, and we'll place it right here. You know, it's really easy. Ever since they added the select tool, it's really easy to do kind of stuff like this. You know, where instead of having to place each individual block, you just place, you know, up to 100 blocks or something like that. Alright guys, now that we finished the whole 16 by 5 pad, we can double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, everything looks good. Now we're gonna place some walls around this thing. Now you don't necessarily have to place the walls. I think it's better, you know, so you might as well place them. It's not gonna like take hours just to place these walls. Alright guys, now that we've pretty much finished the entire area, we're gonna go ahead and go 7 blocks out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and place a wall there. And you can double check that, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 12 blocks in total, guys. 12 blocks in total. Now go to device tab, and you're gonna look for the barrier. Place it down on the wall. Now, like I said, I got this from Immature Gaming, you know, but I did add a few of my own stuff. So set the width and depth to 100 and the height to 12 on the barrier. And let's not worry about the other settings quite yet. Alright, now is the fun part of doing the item spawners themselves. So go into devices, go down towards the bottom where it says item spawner. We're gonna need about 80 of these. So yeah, there's a lot of placing to do here. So just basically start filling in the whole thing, guys, and I'll see y'all when I'm done. Alright guys, now that we have completed placing all the item spawners, it did take a while, so y'all may need to pause the video and go do that if you didn't. So now we're just gonna basically change the settings on these. You hold down customize, and don't worry about the items respawn, you know, don't worry about the random spawns, don't worry about the visible during games. All we really worry about is the time before first spawn, so we'll set that to instant. And the time between spawns, we're gonna set that to 5 minutes. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 minutes, but I just think that's the easiest. And you know, so instant 5 minutes, and then Bonus ammo, that's kind of your guys' thing. You could turn it on or off. It's up to, you if you want to play the game with bonus ammo. Leave it on, obviously, but I don't even care. So I'm just going to leave it on. And run over pickup definitely needs to be on. Basically everything else, don't worry about. And yeah, now we got to go set all 80 of these spawners to the settings that I already said. So y'all may want to like take a screenshot or something, make sure you have the right settings, and maybe pause the video or something and start doing this yourself, guys, because I'm just gonna jump cut to when I'm already done. Alright guys, I'm on the last one now. It took a really long time, like freaking 20 minutes I think, of just straight button mashing, but eventually, y'all will get faster. Once you're going along, you have a little rhythm, you eventually, it's not going to take an hour or something. It won't take too long. Alright guys, now it's time to do kind of the easy part, which is just drop a bunch of guns or whatever items you want to use. I'm picking P90s because P90s are kind of fun. Now, don't put them on this side. You definitely want to put it on this side or else it's just not going to work properly. So basically, an entire row, you would want to make it all one gun. Alright, I just finished the P90s. I'm going to move on to the next row, and I'll get through all of them. But while I'm doing that, I'll talk to y'all about this. So basically, the item spawners, they'll get, the barrier will push the items through the wall to the player spawners. So if you want to, you could like put multiple of one gun, but like do it the other way around. Also, it doesn't even have to be like a golden pump or a golden P90. It could be whatever gun you guys want. It could even be like an infinity blade. I'm just picking gold guns, like my favorite gold guns. But y'all could even go into consumables, if you put mats or something like that, you could put ammo, you could put literally anything in the consumables tab, like all those throwables, storm flips. Can't really think of all of them right now. But basically everything in the consumables will work. Everything in the weapons will work as well. And I just finished the third row. I'm gonna put some miniguns in the fourth row. They're pretty similar to P90s, but it doesn't really matter that much. This is just to show y'all that it's possible to just fill up all these if you really wanted to. Alright, now I'm gonna put probably a sniper in these ones over here. Let's do the 50 cal. That's always a fun sniper. Alright, so once y'all have finished filling in all these, it'll probably look something similar to this. Basically all of the rows are filled in, all the guns are filled in. So, it should technically be working, but we want to add some, make it a little bit better. We don't want just the guns to spawn up. We want to respawn. So we're going to get a little area right here. It doesn't even matter where you put this. It doesn't have to be right next to this at all. I'm just putting it here because it'd be easier to go from this little area. We're going to get some music sequencers, pop them down. And yeah. I'm going to probably change the settings on the music sequencer. Don't want the tempo to be too fast. It's up to y'all how to mess with the tempo, but I'm going to put it right about 20. Yeah, that seems right. That seems right. Alright. And I don't think we should mess with the length or height, just leave the length, leave the width, however they start off. We should be good there. Alright, let's build a little area. And we're going to want to go into the devices tab and search for where it says trigger. Get the trigger and throw down towards the end there. And depending on how long, how slow you want the tempo to be, I'm just going to experiment right here, put it on longer and see if that's good or not. So now that you have the trigger, let's put the grid snap to 16. Seems to be one of the easier ways to do this. You can place it wherever you want, but obviously you want to place it somewhere towards the end. And we're going to go into this trigger, change some of the settings, not too many settings, but just, so times you can trigger is just 1, It normally is on infinite, but I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. I just think it's better on 1. Right now, if you go towards the bottom, you'll see where it says when triggered transmit on, and there you're gonna click 1, you know, channel 1. So that trigger will transmit channel 1 whenever the music sequencer comes around and hits it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to want to do is make sure this music sequencer works. So maybe y'all, you know, it says towards the bottom, activate on game phase. You know, you could make it say game start. Unfortunately, kind of like the inventory thing, it doesn't actually work all the time. And this one, it's like a 50-50 chance that it actually works. So I'm just going to use this method I found while I was making zone wars and such. You place a trap right on that wall. And then the next thing you're gonna do is get a shopping cart from your devices and build out a little area. You don't actually want the shopping cart to like go too far away, you want it to be close. And if you place it sideways, you'll see that it'll roll away. The trap will trigger the music sequencer, and the music sequencer will eventually, you know, it'll hit the trigger. And I think I'm actually gonna change it to 4, you know. It looks like it's gonna run a little bit longer than I hoped. So we'll just put the trigger back where it was, but on length of 4. Once again, this is like the part of the video that, you know, this part of the video doesn't really matter, you know, what length it is. So now we're gonna change the settings on these player spawners, you know. Basically go all the way down and hit disable when receiving from 1. So every single one needs to say disable when receiving from 1. Right now that you've done that, you know, they're all set to disable when receiving from channel 1. Basically, whenever channel 1 happens, these will all disable. And the reason we want to do that is because, you know, you only want to spawn in there once and then leave, you know. So we'll go into the barrier, do the exact same thing with the barrier, because we don't want that thing to be on the entire game. We want it to turn off once we have our guns. There's no point in the barrier being on. There's no point in those item spawners or player spawners being on. Sorry. You know, it's kind of a one-use thing. Alright, so the next thing is just to make the whole platform disappear. And there's no real fancy way to do this. Just get an explosive device. I like to put the player damage real low just in case somebody runs into this or something, but damage in a destructible building should be on. You know, put plenty of structure damage. I just put 5,000. I made the knockback off, the radius 3, because I want it to not necessarily interfere with the player, but... Alright, now hit explode when receiving from channel 1. Basically, not only will the player spawners turn off, the barrier turn off, but also this explosive device will explode. So remember how I said maybe you want to raise this up above the ground a few blocks? Well, now it kind of makes sense because we want to blow this up, right? And since it's somewhat hovering, it should basically knock it all down, and we won't have this big ugly chunk of metal floating. Alright, so now just to make the game a little bit more functional, go into galleries and go somewhat near to the bottom, you know, I guess kind of the middle actually, and look for the music blocks right there, music block gallery. And it doesn't really matter where you place these. This isn't, you know, this is optional. You don't have to do these at all, but you can. I think it makes it nicer. So just throw them down. And my personal favorite is the red one that is marked C. Y'all can't hear it because I turned my game volume all the way down. I didn't want the tutorial to get like too loud or anything. But trust me guys, this block will definitely make a noise the second that it hits the music sequencer interacts with it. So we're kind of gonna want to place these evenly between each block where the music sequencer is gonna hit. So we already placed 2. Alright, we already placed 3, and here's the last one. Alright guys, so now you could just pretty much get rid of these. Obviously you don't have to use the red block that is marked C. I just think that's the nicest noise. Okay, now that we've gotten rid of all these, we can go back over here. And, you know, I think we should test out how it works. In order to test it, we're just going to go where it says My Island. We're going to go hit Start Game. And hopefully we'll spawn in there. Oh, okay. So we did. It all worked. And yep, there's all our guns kind of mushed together. So, oh yeah, there's every single one of them. Perfect, perfect. And now you could probably peek around the back. Y'all obviously can't hear it, but there was noise, like the beeping noises from the music blocks. Like I said, I turned my game volume down because I didn't want y'all to get annoyed. But trust me, those music blocks were definitely going off. And yeah, it's just like a nice little touch. So obviously, if you noticed, if you did everything like how I explained, everything blew up, but the player didn't necessarily respawn. So we're gonna have to add that right now. You know, go a block under. It doesn't have to be directly in the center because, like I said earlier, 16 doesn't have 16 blocks is not an odd number. It doesn't have an exact center. So we're just gonna get a damage volume. Set the depth to about 20. So you know, if you place it slightly off center, it's not gonna matter that much. Now let's set the width to 20, and let's set the height to 2. Alright. Make sure that you don't put enabled on game start. We want disabled, and enable when receiving from channel 1. So basically everything will blow up and this thing will turn on. And I'm gonna put a few more explosive devices, guys, because hopefully I can break the music blocks so they won't just be floating how last time they were floating. Alright, let's test it out one more time. Let's see what happens. You know, oh shoot, wait a minute guys. I think I set the barrier to the wrong number, or the damage volume. Oh guys, that was my mistake. We need the depth to be set to 1. Sorry guys. Hopefully you can go back and change that real quick. Width set to 20, depth set to 1. All the other settings should stay the same. And yeah, there we go. That's how we know it works, is when it goes right there. Alright, so we should spawn in the weapons room, should get some weapons, and then, you know, okay, we got all our weapons, have plenty of time to do whatever we want, and you can see the device is about to trigger it. There we go. So notice how our character died, right as the building was breaking, so basically it forced us to respawn, and there we are, respawning. Perfect. Alright, so basically it all works. Oh, left a hole in the ground. Well, that doesn't matter too much, as long as it's gone. I don't really care if there's a hole in the ground. Y'all could obviously tidy that up. That's probably because the explosives, they have a blast radius that's bigger than it needs to be. I like setting it to 3 because it just guarantees everything is gone. Alright, so that was pretty successful. That's one thing that we could knock off the list. If we go over to the side here, we'll change that real quick. Alright. Make the weapon giver machine. Let's change this. Alright guys, we can cross that one off the list. Let's go to step 3, which is make in-game spawn pads. So basically, we have a huge area where the actual game is going to be. So this is about 15 to 20, you know, it's in that range. I haven't necessarily counted it out, but basically just need an area of where the game is going to be. So let's get our player spawn pads out, you know, get a few. Depending on how big your game is, you know, you might need more player spawn pads or less, but I'm just going to place down a few just to show you an example. You know, I'll place one here, I'll place one, I guess, in this corner, why not? Alright, now, the thing about these spawn pads is the settings. That's what makes them, that's really one of the main things, is you don't want it set to enabled, you actually want it set to disabled. Kind of like how the island starts, you want them to start out disabled. Uses island start off, visible during games off, and enable when receiving from, and we're gonna hit 1. So basically, while the item spawners, the player spawners, sorry, in the gun gallery, how they're turning on, they're turning off when channel 1 happens. These are gonna be turning on, you know, so they'll turn off, these will turn on. Basically, so players will all spawn there, then it'll switch places, they'll all spawn here. So let's, you know, try it out. Respawning, we should start in the, you know, the good old game start. Alright, now that we started in the game start, you know, successfully, there's our title and who made it and whatnot. We're gonna go ahead and actually start the game, you know, give it a run. So, go to My Island, start game. Alright, now we should spawn in the gun gallery. We should get our guns. Eventually we'll respawn and this whole thing will explode, and then we'll spawn in the game. So that's kind of the sequence of events that we're waiting. You know, we got our guns. I can hear the little beeping in the corner. Once again, y'all aren't gonna hear it because I turned off game volume. Alright, there we go. Respawn successfully. The whole thing came crashing down successfully. And there we go. Here we are. We're in the game that we made just now, guys. So obviously, you know, this doesn't look nice. We'll make it look nicer, but we just want a little bit of a template, you know, as long as we know it's all working. Alright, well, this seems pretty good, guys. Alright, guys, so don't worry about what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to explain something. Basically, if you ever get this error, how it came up on the bottom left of my screen, you might see it. It says, too many receivers on channel 1. Let me do it again just to show y'all. Basically, each channel has a limit. You know, channel 1 can turn on this, it can turn on that, turn off this, turn off that, but it has a limit. So basically, since channel 1 is controlling, you know, it's controlling the item spawn, not the item spawners, sorry, the player spawners, it's controlling the barrier, it's, yeah, basically everything here, except for like the individual gun spawners, everything there, the barrier over there, the explosive devices over here, everything is controlled by this one little channel. And basically we reached our cap. So, you know, obviously I placed a few extra spawners to let it reach the maximum. The maximum is 30. If y'all have a really small game and you only want like 5 or 6 spawns in it, you'll be good, but I highly suggest doing this. So go here, you know, duplicate it, name the trigger number 2, you know, for channel 2, and I'll show you all why in a second, because we've hit our limit on how many receivers we can have for channel 1, but we haven't hit it on 2 or 3 and so on and so forth. So it could basically make a trigger that is identical, you know, it happens at the exact same time when channel 1 happens, but we'll just name it 2, you know, that way it's basically we're extending our limit. So come over to this player spawner that I had problems with, enable receiving from 1, still doesn't work, turn it on to channel 2, perfect. You know, it'll work exactly the same as all the other spawners in here, except obviously it'll have a different label. So look, now I could add another one, put it on 2, and now we have what, 30 more. You know, we have a fresh new batch is what I'm saying. So definitely want to do that, guys. And look, you could even place another one right here and rename it channel 3. You could have an infinite amount of those things going on. Well, up to 24, but alright, so we crossed off number 3 off our list, you know, make the game spawn pads. Now we're gonna go to make, you know, make the game, right? Want it to decorate a little bit, wanna, you know, put some buildings, put something. Alright guys, so obviously to get buildings, to get all the cool stuff, we're gonna have to go into galleries. We want to make the floor first before we actually throw any buildings, you know. I don't like the wood, maybe I'll like wood, I don't know. I won't judge, but I'm gonna personally change it to a kind of rocky soil to match kind of what I showed off to you guys with the other Wild West map, you know, kind of show y'all what I did. Alright guys, so one good tip is to always place down a ramp or two, you know, whenever you're placing your prefab. It's just kind of like to get it off the ground a little bit, get it out of your way. Alright, so we're just gonna start to slowly fill it in, then we'll select, you know, get a 2x2, and then eventually we'll make a 4x4 and keep selecting. Alright guys, now that I finished selecting the entire thing and copying and pasting the entire thing, notice these spawners did disappear when you kind of place a block under a spawner. It'll break it, so don't worry guys, don't worry. We'll replace them, right? So remember, disabled, off, and then channel 1 on all those things. You can like pause the video, screenshot right here if you need to, you know, remember what these settings are. But I'm just gonna place a bunch of random player spawners, you know, that would work when the game starts, and eventually we're gonna get some buildings in here. First I want to put some more player spawners. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's good for a starter. Now let's go into prefabs, which is basically buildings that are already made for you. And let's go down to the bottom where it says like Fatal Fields kind of stuff is, I think that's what it is. Aha, here we go. Got a few Fatal Field buildings to throw down. So let's throw this one down kind of in the corner. Normally with my maps, I kind of throw them out there, then I copy and paste. Not necessarily copy and paste, but copy some parts of it. I like to make custom stuff, but it's up to y'all. If y'all really want to just kind of throw it directly in here, I could see why y'all would do that. But I like kind of making it my own, saying, oh, look, I built it. You know, you could customize it to whatever you want, really. So, once again, if you couldn't tell, there was a spawn pad in there. Let's place the spawn pad up above. Why not? You know, plenty of hiding spaces and all kinds of stuff you could do with these buildings. All kinds of places to put spawn pads. Right, here we go. We have another building. This is like a big barn kind of thing. So I'm thinking that we're gonna put a whole bunch of spawn pads in here. So there's one. We'll add another one somewhere here. Yeah. There we go. Let's go add another one. Probably up here on like this. Whoop, on this third story. Alright, perfect, guys. Oh, it's giving us that error. But remember, guys, we already have channel 2 hooked up, so go back in, change it to channel 2. Perfect fix, guys. So if it ever says, oh, you have too many receivers on channel 1, just change to channel 2. Alright, guys. Now that I have kind of built the whole map by throwing a bunch of prefabs, guys, I wanted to cut some of that part out because it's just boring, just throwing down prefabs and putting player spawners in there. Y'all should be able to do that, you know. It's not too hard to do. Just throw down prefabs or build prefabs, you know. Customize it. You can get pretty cool with these maps you make. Let's get rid of the outside wall though. That's definitely alright, guys. Now that we got rid of all the outside wall, the ugliness, the metal, we're gonna put down a barrier around the edges, put height to about 10, width to about, I'm gonna put it to about, actually, I'm going to change it. Let's not put the width to 10. Let's put it to about, I don't know, 15. Yeah, that looks good. It just, you know, barriers are a lot cleaner and nicer than just a physical wall. Okay, so now that all the barriers are placed in, you can make them however tall, however long you want to, but, you know. So we're going to test our mechanism here. We're going to hit respawn. We should spawn at the island. Start with the, yep, there we go. Spawn here. There's our name for the island, who made it and whatnot, using the billboards. That's always a good thing to use. Now we're gonna start it as if, you know, as if everyone's in here and we're ready to start it. So here we are. Also, I'm not sure if I told you guys, but you could definitely decorate this room right here. It does not have to be metal. If you saw my other example, I made each individual room kind of Wild West themed. It's a lot better like that, trust me, guys. Yes, straight in the game. Perfect, guys. So it all seems to be working. Alright, guys, so pretty much the whole game is done there. You know, obviously you want to add your own buildings, your own guns, your own spawn pads. But for now, I'm going to mark that off. That is, you know, the game is complete. It's over there, really. I prefer if you, like, kind of make a custom building. You know, the prefabs, they look good, but they're just not, you know, you want to add your own buildings. Thanks to Sapio for helping me film a lot of this video, you know, record it, getting me some clips of him showing off some of the FFA maps. And yeah, there's Sapio. Also, guys, big thanks to Shockwave and Antdog Potato for helping me film a lot of the gameplay, guys. And big thanks to you guys for watching this video. Please consider subscribing so that way I know this, like, oh, they like this, you know. Tell me in the comment section if I explained good or whatnot. I commentated on other YouTube channels before, but I never really done a Fortnite one, so maybe y'all could tell me how good I did or whatnot. Also, in order for me to post these worlds, which I really want to, I showed some of the worlds, and there's some cool ones coming up on the way, guys. But in order for me to post those, I kind of need a creator code. So hopefully, you know, y'all would consider subscribing. That way I could get even closer to that creator code. That way I could post worlds, and then y'all could play them further yourselves, you know. Like, what's even better than watching a video about a cool map than actually playing it yourself? So I hope y'all had fun making this, and hope y'all made some cool maps in the process. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.